Good morning. It's Saturday morning, it's the middle of May, and I am raring to go. And I was going to start this week's video with a very long to-do list. And I do use to-do lists, you've seen me use them before, very helpful. But I think on the to-do list that I would have for today, it would basically say everything. Everything needs doing. Everywhere I look, I see something that needs doing. So essentially what I'm going to do is just look and then do the things. So I haven't got a list, but I did want to talk just briefly before we start about the overwhelm, the anxiety that's kind of, it's very much a theme at the minute in gardening YouTube world. And I mean, I've done it too. I did a video just a couple of weeks ago, overwhelmed. And it, of course, is the time of year where we do feel that. But I just want to sort of counteract that with, it's the time of year where everything is starting and there is so much to see and so much joy and so many things popping that, I mean, it balances out, doesn't it? We might feel overwhelmed, but there is so much joy to be gotten. Sorry, that's a little bit intense there. So much joy to be gotten from the garden at this time of year. So I'm trying to hold on to that, and perhaps I can help you do that too. And one of the ways that I sort of reassure myself at this time of year is by looking back at what I've done previous years. Now, I don't think I've mentioned this on the channel before, but I keep a gardening journal or diary. I tend to use these ones from Sarah Raven because they are so pretty, and I now have 3 years worth of these books. Okay, and it means what I can do is reassure myself by going back and looking at what was happening the previous years. So 2023, mid-May, what was I up to? So I was direct sowing things. I direct sowed beetroot, radishes, parsnips, oca. Right, okay, now that is reassuring. My oca is still chitting. I had a sense that it should be out by now or something done with it by now, but actually I did not direct sow it until the 10th of May last year, and we're not so far off of that. We're at 18th today, so I'm only a week out. And I believe last year, because they were late being sold, they weren't chitted. I'd only just got them through the post. So these are chitted, so they should have a head start on last year's anyway, and I had a really good crop last year, so I'm not worried. So that's okay. What else did I do? Only on the 8th of May did I sow my cucumber, squash, sunflowers and a chocha, so I'm on track with those as well. So that's okay. What else? What about actually today on the 18th? Oh, I made a new bed. Of course I did. I made that shady border bed in the garden this time last year. But the first thing, I'm in the greenhouse, the first thing I'm looking at is the bed down here. And I've actually cleared this bed. Well, I say cleared. There is a peppermint chard, a poppy, and if I go over to the other side, some calendula. And now I did find out the variety of these lettuces, which have been amazing. They were Arctic King. Brilliant lettuces to grow over winter. There you go, there's my recommendation, and still only just about to bolt, I think, so really good. Anyway, this last week was full of parsley, full of cutting celery, all sorts of things. Anyway, it's all cleared. I've taken it all out, and I've been watering it because it was gone a bit, did it say hydroponic? I don't know, dry. It's gone quite dry. So I've been watering it. I've given it good water first thing this morning. It's cloudy today, so it's not evaporating too quickly. I've let it soak in. I'm going to give it a really good water again now. Then I'm going to prepare this bed for tomatoes. And here they are. Okay, so what did we say? We had 56 tomato plants. They're starting to get a little bit leggy. That's okay. We're going to bury them deep anyway. These look so much better than my tomatoes last year. In fact, that'd be a great thing to check in the diary. What was going on with my tomatoes last year? Oh my goodness. So Friday the 2nd of June, I have a note, watered and fed tomatoes as still in pots. When did they actually go in then? Thursday the 15th of June. So a month from today. And the previous year I had done it on the 4th of May. I made that note in here, but you could also look in my previous one. But yeah, so as we know, last year I was horrible to my tomatoes, absolutely abused them. It was a wonder I got anything. Do not want to make the same mistake this year. So I shall not be waiting till the 15th of June to put them in the ground. What I do want to do though is decide which ones are going in here, which ones will be going outside, which ones I need to put on to save for the fantasy greenhouse that's going to appear on my plot at some point, and which ones I can pass along to the allotment sale, which is tomorrow. So that's why this is a priority, because the tomatoes that I don't think I'll need, am I going to be able to part with any? If I can part with some tomatoes, that's where they need to go, to the allotment sale tomorrow. Anyway, enough talk. It's time to start looking and doing. You're rejoining me at 7:30, and it has been a long old day. We have got an awful lot done. I'm too tired to take you through it all now, so we'll save that to the morning. But there's one last thing I want to do before I get in the bath, and that is plant the ochre. So I've prepared this bed. I've taken out what was in here: parsley, lamb's lettuce, weeds. I've took all that out. I've put some compost on top, and then some of this soil enhancer mulch. And I've chosen this bed because it's one of the sunnier beds. So the ones on the other side of the arch are a bit more shady, so I'm going to use those for salad greens. But the ochre wants sun, so I'm going to put it on this side, although it does get a little bit of shade from the rows. These are garlic. There's garlic everywhere. Fennel. Loving the fennel at the moment. I'm using it for tea, and it's absolutely brilliant. I don't know why I've not been doing that sooner. I've got little sweet peas here and the climbing rose, but the rest of the bed is going to be ochre. So I think I've got 19 in here, or 17. These are all saved from last year. So and oh my god, they're well chitted. Not only have they got a root coming out of the bottom, but the chits on the top have actually got leaves on them. So that's a pink one, and but I've got quite a few colours, and as I say, they were all saved from the ochre that I grew last year. In terms of spacing, I don't know, I'm just going to fit them in this bed. I loved the ochre so much last year that I thought I want an entire bed of them this year. So that's what I'm doing. So what am I spacing them? What would you say that is? 20 centimetres, Dory? We're doing a 20 centimetre grid. Go. Try not to knock the chits off. Oh my goodness, that's a perfect number. I love it when a plan comes together. There is a teeny tiny one left, but I've got somewhere for that. I'll show you in a moment. No, we're not playing ball, Dory. We're not playing ball. Right, let's get these in. They don't need to go too deep, and obviously they're well chitted. So I suppose it's okay to bury the leaves. Well, that's what's going to have to happen. So the teeny tiny one, I'm going to pop just here in this corner of the bed, because there are two little ochre plants that are coming up in this bed that have overwintered in the soil and are now sprouting. So it just shows you can leave them in the bed. I don't know if I would dare to do it with all of them. They're expensive ochre tubers, so you do want to be careful with them, but it is nice to see that if you miss a few, they could come up. So I'm just going to add this one to this little row then of ochre, and we'll see if this teeny tiny one does anything. There you go. Right, I'm going to give those a water. I'm going to get in the bath. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Happy Sunday, welcome to the greenhouse. Apologies, I think I'm just having a dizzy turn. It is so hot in here and I have been non-stop all day and yesterday, and I've got to fill you in on yesterday as well. But currently in here it's 33.2 degrees and yeah. Ooh, I'm even without tea, I've got cold drink. So yesterday, I checked with my book. What did I do yesterday? What I did was prepare this bed for the tomatoes, and that was quite a task. It was really dry, so I took the chard and the poppy and the lettuces out, and as soon as you lifted them out, it was like the bone dry, the soil. So the first thing was to get the whole bed hydrated. I've got still the little pipes in the bed, and so I had the hose in those, filling those up. I watered all over, then I dug the hose into the soil and tried to get it underneath the soil and getting some water in there. But yeah, I tried to get as much water in as possible. I then treated it with lactic acid bacteria, so I used my excess sourdough starter, I mix it with water, and then I put that in, and that will feed the soil microbial stuff in the soil, she says. What else did I do? I broad forked it because I thought that would help get the moisture down a little bit more, so that I broad forked the whole bed. I put seaweed powder on there, so this is a new purchase of mine. So this Westland seaweed powder, and it's kind of pongy, but hopefully will add more nutrition to the bed. Then I put my homemade compost on there, again nutritious, so that should be good. I also put a bag of plant grow compost on there, which I'm kind of regretting now because I'm running out of compost. And then I did a top dressing of the Blooming Amazing soil enhancer as a mulch to kind of keep all that moisture that I got in there actually in there, because obviously on a day like today it's just going to evaporate immediately. So the bed is prepped. I can't actually put the tomatoes in the bed because I've now covered it with other plants, and that's because the other thing I've done is loads and loads of potting on. So I potted on chillies, peppers, aubergines. I potted on the physalis or the Cape gooseberries, and actually I'm really quite impressed with these. One sec. So now they're not the hugest plants in the world, but they're much bigger than I've got them in the past until about, I don't know, they're about this size in August and then suddenly put on some growth. So that they're this size at this time of year is actually really good for me, and they look like very nice little healthy plants. So pretty happy with that. No idea where their final position is going to be, and I've got 6 of them. The other things I potted on were the snake beans and the melons, so they're all doing fine. And then after I'd amended this bed, I went and amended the beds out in the garden. So my 4 smaller beds, each of those got some homemade compost on them, then some of the Blooming Amazing mulch. I watered them with the lactic acid bacteria solution. I put some of the seaweed feed in as well. And you saw me then plant the ochre into one of those beds, but all beds, well, one's already got garlic in, but well, they've all got a bit of garlic in. I've just got garlic everywhere. But those beds are now ready to plant in. And it's probably going to be lettuce because I've got loads of lettuce that is desperate to go out. So I think that was everything yesterday. There was no doubt other random things that I did because I was following that principle of see it, do it. Speaking of which, I dropped into the plot with Dory on the dog walk, and I saw in my pocket that I'd been carrying around some of the Pink Panther onion sets for an awfully long time, and they really needed to actually go in the ground. So while we wandered through, I got the hori out, and I just put those Pink Panther onion sets into a bed and gave them water. So I planted them fairly close together. It's a little bit late, but even if they make sort of little onions, it's better than them being wasted, isn't it? So I did that. Then on to today. I was up early marking, got that out of the way, and I was out here I think about 7 a.m. The first thing I did was sort through the chilies and aubergines that I potted on yesterday because I wanted to see what to take to the allotment sale, which was this morning. So I went through those, decided that I didn't need 3 or 4 of every variety of chili and aubergine. So I've only allowed myself 2 of each. Everything else I put aside to take this morning to the sale. And then the other thing that I knew I had loads of was brassicas, way more brassicas than I would ever need. There was a huge amount of golden acre cabbage, and I know why. It was because the first lot got completely eaten by slugs, so I re-sowed, but actually those ones came back fine. So that's worth remembering for next year. So golden acre cabbage I took, green sprouting broccoli. What else did I take? Oh, a whole tray randomly of aloe veras. You know how aloe veras, they have so many babies, and I was sick of them hanging around the house. So we'll see if anybody wants aloe veras on the allotment. So I took those down to the allotment sale this morning, and that was lovely. There was such a great atmosphere down there this morning. There were loads of people milling about, going down to the sale and having a look what was there. Things were being taken, things were coming in. I obviously didn't come home empty-handed, but I was really restrained. So I think I probably gave, I don't know, 30 or 40 plants. I only came back with one, and it is a tomato, as if I need any more tomatoes. But this one is called crocchini, and it's a blight resistant tomato, so that one's going to go outside. And I potted on the 3 crushed heart that grew okay, and they are going to go outside as well. So I've now got 4 tomatoes, which are definitely going to be outdoor tomatoes. So after the plot, I came back and decided that I needed to take a look at my squash and the courgettes and the cucumbers. So I potted on everything that had germinated, and then anything that hadn't has gone back in the house to hopefully, because some of those seeds were sown later after the mouse incident, so they might still germinate. But everything that had germinated has got potted on, so that's good. And then I've just come to do the dahlia cuttings because I now have all of these chili and aubergine plants in much bigger pots, taking up a lot more room. So really there wasn't space in here for the dahlias anymore, and it's a bit hot for the dahlias. So they've now moved inside. They're in the lean-to. Now that the scaffolding's gone down, there's light again in the lean-to, so they're in there. But that's what prompted me then to think, these dahlia cuttings that I took are probably ready to be potted on. Now, as I said, I'm pretty much out of compost, but I googled, and dahlias like acidic soil, and I have half a bag of ericaceous compost. Yes. So I've just mixed the very last of my multi-purpose with some of the ericaceous and some perlite, and yeah, I'm going to pot on what I've got. 1 tray, 2 tray, 3 trays of dahlia cuttings. Where are all these dahlias going? I have no idea. If you recall these dahlia cuttings, they were taken from the tubers that I started off in plastic bags, in sandwich bags, and I cut at the connection between the shoot and the tuber. Sometimes I took a little sliver of the tuber as well. They've really taken off. I'm so pleased with how these have gone. It's really increased my stock of dahlias to the point where I'm not sure where they're all going to go. But I mean, I could have a dahlia cutting bed on the plot, which would be amazing. And actually, if you look at this one, you can see the tuber is starting to form just from that few weeks old cutting. It's pretty amazing.
Good morning. It's Tuesday. It's already Tuesday, and it's fairly early. It's just before work, and I just want to sort out what's going on with these pumpkins. So these are all the ones that haven't come up, either because they were sown a bit later, as the replacements for the mouse, or the mouse got them without me realising, and I've just been nurturing a cell of soil. There is some activity. So one of the Waltham butternut is just peeking up. I've had a little root, and two of the crown prince, which were from Claire, have just started coming up, and so they were sown much later. So I'm going to kind of keep those, but I think these which are the spaghetti, a mystery because the mouse had chucked a seed out, and so I just put it back in. Candy roaster, and then in here we have Big Mac's mystery, the Malvern Giant, nothing from that. The Andean Big, nothing from that. Delicata, none. I had one fungo, none of the others. One Muster Provence, none of the others. No Chioggia and no green Hokkaido yet. And there's a couple of Uchikikuri in here as well. I have rooted a couple out and put them into Tupperware with wet paper to see if I can chip them in here rather than taking up all this space. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tip out all of this compost. I'm going to find if there are any viable seeds still in there, and if they are, they're going in the Tupperware to pre-chit, because this is too much, taking up too much space, just too much bare soil in the living room. I don't want it anymore. So I'm going to do that. And part of the reason as well for doing that is to free up the propagator, because I may have mentioned earlier in the video, I have yet to sow a single bean, and I have a plan. So I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to come back to you and talk beans. Well, unfortunately, most of those pumpkin seeds had rotted. So that was a shame. I've saved a couple that were still firm and put those in the Tupperware tub, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, that was a bit of a shame. And what I wish I'd done was pre-chitted my pumpkins. Now, I've never had to do that in the past, but I've not had these issues in the past. So for whatever reason, well, mouse, I'm having issues this year. So I wish I'd pre-chitted, and I'm going to learn my lesson now and pre-chit my beans, which again, I've never done before, but I've seen other people doing them. And I think this is going to help me threefold. Firstly, keep them away from the mouse. Secondly,
not use any compost. And thirdly, give me a bit more of a head start.
Right, I'm going to start with the Greek Gigante. So these are the Greek Gigante that I bought from TK Maxx on recommendation from Danny. I sent some to Ali and Trish at the Right Pair Plot, and they pre-chitted and they have had good germination on those, I believe. So I'm feeling quite confident about these. What I'm not feeling so confident in is how they will grow in our conditions, because they were grown in Greece. And obviously we have a very different climate to Greece, so we shall see. But I'm going to get these ones pre-chitted then. So I'm going to let's have a big piece, because these are big beans. So I'm just going to wet it and really squeeze it out. There we go. And we'll lay it out in the propagator. How many of these are we going to do? Let's just pour some on and see what happens. That's probably enough. And then I'm going to wrap them up. So I don't want them really on top of each other, so let's space them out a little bit, and then just wrap them up like a little envelope. There we go. Put those in the corner there and write our label. So they were Greek Gigante. Another one that I want a lot of is runner bean. This is Scarlet Emperor runner bean, but I've got a couple of different other varieties of runner bean. I've got my saved one, two saved ones from last year. I've also got white Emergo. I think that might be all my runner beans. Okay, so saved, Scarlet Emperor, and white Emergo. I'm not sure. Well, I think I'll do all these Scarlet Emperor because there's not that many left in the pack. We'll put those in. Scarlet. Ooh. Oh no, I've got another runner bean. This, oh gosh, I really want to do this. So this one's from Nick the Grief, and it's called Runnymede Sunset, and it has apricot flowers. And well, very excited about apricot flowers. Now there's not loads of those. Let's do a smaller piece of thing. I might grow those ones in the garden rather than on the plot, because I imagine they're going to be very beautiful. Okay. He put on the label to replace the tansy. If you're a long-term viewer, you'll know that I'm not impressed by tansy. Smells like cat pee. Right, those. I have never chitted runner beans before. It seems a bit mad because they should grow really well without this, but yeah, I just don't want to lose these to mice. Right, so what was that called? Sunset runner. Hopefully we'll get a lot of those, and I can save them for next year. Right, what else have we got? Okay, on to climbing beans. We've got saved ballotti, but I've also got the original ballotti seeds from Incredible Seed Library as well. Oh, aren't they such pretty beans? They're so nice. Shall we use them all? That's a lot of beans if we do all of them. I'll put a few more on. Oh, they look really different. Oh, look at the difference. Perhaps I should keep those separate and see. Let's keep them separate, but on the same piece of cloth. There we go. These are from the Incredible Seed Library, and it's called Maggie's Ballotti Beans. So let's do 2 labels then. One for saved, one for original. Right, that's great. So what have we got left? Cherokee Trail of Tears. I thought I was out of these, and Ali from My Rusty Garden was going to send me some, but then I found them, so saved us some postage there. Oh my goodness, they look so beautiful, so shiny and black. Oh, let's do them all. Let's do them all. Right. Oh dear, I'll do this one-handed now. There we go. In you go. The Cherokee Trail of Tears. I did try and grow these last year, but with no luck. So hopefully we'll get some this year, and then I can save seed for the next year. Right. Okay, Cherokee Trail of Tears. Right, we're almost there. So I've got yin yang beans. Now, again, if you've been with me a while, you know I had very little success with yin yang beans. I also planted them thinking they were a climber, but they're a dwarf bean. Another bean that looks absolutely stunning. Yeah, I love these. But I've got some additional ones from my Secret Santa Grow Bush greenhouse. So I'm going to put these together. And right, come on, yin yang beans. Let's see if we can do better this year. Okay, that's those done. What have we got left? This one from Danny is a Pongo dwarf bean. Okay, I've never done Pongo before, but I've heard other people doing them. Okay, we only got a little bit of seed there, so we're going to have to be careful with these ones. Okay, Pongo. Right, we're almost there. I've got 2 left, but I've only got 1 piece of cloth. But actually, these are both peas. The first one is Rajiva soup pea. I talked about these, I think, before recently. I absolutely loved them last year. You don't have to do anything with them. They dry on the plant, so you don't have to be continually picking the peas. You just wait until the whole plant is dried and dead, and then you take out the peas, and you get amazing little dried peas that you can then store over the winter and add to stews and soups and things like that. And yeah, they're just super low maintenance, but also they have the most beautiful flower. They're really, really gorgeous. Now, instead of putting these in the cloth, because they're a pea, I'm actually just going to soak them. So I'm going to put all of these, because I saved loads because I really liked it, and I thought I want masses of these next year, and then I'll save all the seed again. So I'm going all in with my soup peas. There we go. You better work. And yeah, I'll get some fresh water. So I'm just going to soak those in this little hummus tub, and I'm going to do the same And I have to be super careful with these ones. These are Kent Blue pea. These are from Danny. It's quite a rare pea. I'm under strict instructions not to let the mouse eat it, and to collect the peas once they've grown so that I can increase the stock. Right. All of them? Yep. Oh, there's only a few. Oh, and some of them don't look too good. That's like got a nibble through it. Oh well, we're all going to have a go. There we go. Oh, let's give them the best chance. Danny sent me a picture of what these look like, and oh my god, stunning. Absolutely stunning. Right, is that it? I've got one piece of cloth left. Let's see if we can find another bean to put in it. Okay, there's my bean folder. Right, well, we've got more Cherokee Trail of Tears and a whole new packet of the yin yang. So that's good, because if they fail, then I know I've got some backups. I think everything else is a French bean. So we've got Dwarf Stanley, Purple Queen. I think this one's from Nick as well. This is Dwarf Bean, the Prince. Okay for your show, save the seed. Right, maybe we'll do that one. I've got Cala d'Or, which I grew last year. I've got Purple Teepee, so I've got 2 purple French beans. And I've got Cobra, which is the one I bought this year. So I've got actually a lot of French beans to do. Some climbing, some dwarf. When do April to June? I mean, I've got plenty of time for French beans. They can keep going in, can't they? Can they? I think so. Let's do Nick's. Let's do the Prince. Right. There we go. Oh, another really beautiful bean. I love beans. I mean, I'm a vegan. Of course I love beans, but they're so beautiful. And I love the sound of them. Right, my final piece of cloth then, move the peas along, is for the Prince. In you go. Be good. Grow well. Right, there we go. Propagator full. So this needs to move back into the living room, plug it in, put the dome on top, and that'll keep things a nice even temperature. It's not too hot, this propagator, so a little bit of bottom warmth and the moisture, and hopefully they won't rot and instead we'll get lovely sprouts on these, and then they'll be ready to plant out when we meet next. But we're not done yet. We've still got tomatoes to go out into the greenhouse, and I think that'll be after work, so I shall get on with my marking and see you a bit later. Welcome back, and we are ready to plant out the tomatoes, but it is not Tuesday evening. It is in fact Thursday morning now. Time has really gotten away from me this week. As I said earlier, I think in the video, it's a very busy time of year for me. It is marking season, so I've been inundated with marking meetings. It's just a busy work time, so I haven't had the normal opportunities that I would have to sort of nip out and do little bits. I have been to the plot a couple of times on the dog walk, and I hate my first peas. They weren't quite ready yet, but couldn't help myself. There was a pod that was plump, and I'm like, I'm eating it. So I ate my first peas, and I did harvest a leek as well. So there have been some nice things like that. Oh, and I thinned the parsnips out here. But for the most part, what I've been doing since I last saw you is slug hunting. Slug hunting. It has rained non-stop, which is great. Everything got a really good water. The water butts are full again, but it has meant that the slugs have been out in force. So every evening, so just before bed, I'm coming out and I'm collecting as many as I can find and popping them into the compost heap. I was out here at 5:30 this morning, picking them all up. Off they went to the compost heap, where I'm hoping they live happy lives, just munching on the stuff that needs to be munched, rather than sort of me putting them there and then they're starting their journey back to where I got them from, and they're eating the nice lush new growth of things that I'm planting out. I have also come up with a little trick to attract the slugs and snails to certain spaces, so it makes the hunting a little bit easier. And I know some people use things like beer traps, but when you do that, you're sort of drowning the slugs and snails, and that's not really within my ethos. So but what I've thought about is that what they're attracted to with the beer is the yeasty smell. And I know some people don't even bother with beer, they just kind of use baker's yeast and make a like liquid out of that, and the slugs are attracted to it and drown in that. But I thought what I have an excess of, as you know if you follow, is sourdough starter. So when you feed sourdough starters, you inevitably end up with a kind of excess of starter that you don't need to bake the bread. And I use it for various things. I used it earlier in this episode, so I make a liquid out of it, a lactic acid bacteria liquid that feed the soil, and it feeds the microbes in the soil. So that's one way that I'm using it for the garden. Obviously you can also use it for like making pancakes and cakes and stuff like that, and I do that too. But my brainwave, to go to kind of last week's episode and finding solutions, was what if I smeared some of the sourdough starter onto cardboard, put it out in the garden. The slugs come attracted to it. They're not drowning in it because it's solid. They're just attracted to it. And then I can just scoop that piece of cardboard up and take it straight to the compost heap. So I'm not having to touch all the slugs and snails. They're on the cardboard, and the cardboard will break down. The sourdough feeds the compost, and the slugs and snails, they have a nice meal of sourdough and then can go on and live their life in the compost heap. And I've actually got a piece down here so I can show you, although I can show you the one from a couple of nights ago where that piece of cardboard and sourdough did really well. It attracted a whole colony of slugs and snails. So that worked really well. But even this morning, and we're now at like nearly 8 o'clock in the morning, here we are in the greenhouse, and I've got a piece, and there's a little snail having a nibble and a little slug having a nibble. So now I can just scoop this up and yeah, take it down to the compost heap. Now I did Google it, and there was one slightly disturbing post that was talking about the advantage of using a sourdough trap over a beer one, because they kind of get stuck in it and drown underneath. But that's like if you're putting water over the sourdough, so they're attracted to the sourdough and then drown, which I'm not doing. So I think this is a pretty humane way of just collecting up slugs. I'm not saying that like this will revolutionize your slug problem and that your garden will be slug free if you try this, but it is just another way of kind of attracting them out of the crevices to one space, so they are easy to kind of scoop up and transplant elsewhere. Now, the other thing I've been doing over the last couple of days, obviously, is trying to get moisture into this bed. So you saw me amend the greenhouse bed ready for the tomatoes earlier in the episode. I've got my moisture meter that I use for houseplants to know when they need watering or not. And I brought this out here to see if it registers that we have now got some moisture in the greenhouse bed. So here we go. Let's just stick it in anywhere. Yes. Yes. If I put it only in at the surface, is it a bit different? Oh yeah, it's going down. But that's not a bad thing, because obviously we want the tomato roots to go down into the bed. Now, the other thing that's been slightly delaying me putting these in, as well as time, is figuring out how I'm doing the support for the tomatoes this year. So last year I used these things, and I tied string to them. I popped them in the ground. I put the tomato on top, and then the string went up to the wires on the greenhouse. I'm not doing that this year. Look how rusty that is. That's in part because when I took the tomatoes down, I cut the strings. I forgot that these were buried underneath, and then had to go hunting around for them all. There's probably a couple that I missed and are still in there somewhere. And I didn't feel that this had any benefit because my string wasn't that brilliant. So I used twine last year. So this kind of twine, natural jute. And for some tomatoes it was fine, for others it snapped. I think part of the reason is because obviously it's buried, it's in the soil, so it's getting it's decomposing in the soil. So one of the things I thought this year I could do is not bury the string and just tie around the base of the plant and go up, which is what I ended up doing anyway with the bits that did break, and they were fine. So why bother burying if they're fine just around the stem? So that's one thing I was thinking. The other thing I was thinking is, would this be better than the jute, which is a cotton string? Is that stronger? Both of these say reliable ropes and twines. Well, that wasn't that reliable. So Is there a benefit to using string over twine? I don't know. And the other thing I was thinking is that when you've got all these pieces of string coming down from the greenhouse and you're trying to harvest your tomatoes, or you're taking out the suckers or whatever, you get caught in the string and then you're pulling it and then you're potentially damaging the tomatoes. So I was wondering whether to just go old school and use bamboo canes. But my bamboo canes are at the plot. And all of these decisions, or decisions that I'm not making, are delaying the tomatoes going in at a point where actually the tomatoes don't need any support because they're only that big. So I'm thinking, stop delaying because I'm not making these decisions, and instead just get the tomatoes in and make those decisions later. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take my tomatoes and put them in. And actually, I'm already a bit annoyed with myself because these tomatoes were very ready to go out at the weekend. They were already late to go out in terms of their growth. And well, look at the size of the cells that they're still in. They're still in these tiny cells, and they're a big plant now. And yeah, this is not treating them as well as I wanted to treat them. Now, in some sense, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to bury the stems anyway, and that's not a bad thing because they'll produce roots and be a sturdier plant because of it. But you know, I really wanted to take care of my tomatoes this year, and I feel like I'm failing them. I'm failing you. I'm sorry. So I'm not going to let this lack of decision making stop me any further, and I'm just going to get them in the ground, and we're going to sort out the supports later. It's probably not what would be advised, but in this case, I think it's the best way to go forward. So I'm going to get my tomatoes in the ground. Now, I have far more tomatoes than I can possibly fit into this space, but I am going to try and fill this space as much as possible. So I think I had 23 tomatoes in here last year, which is ridiculous. I mean, in an ideal world, I would not have that many tomatoes in this smaller space, but this is not an ideal world. This is the growing space that I've got. I'm trying not to put too much outside this year because last year I had blight. So I want at least one of each of my varieties in the greenhouse. Now, I've already potted on one of each variety for the plot greenhouse when it goes up. That may be happening soon, we shall see. And I've also potted up the ones that can go outside, which are blight resistant, and I bought that one earlier in the episode as well at the weekend. So these are all the ones that need to be grown in this greenhouse, and anything that I've got extra is either being given away or is just going to take its chances outside. Now, the other thing I need to figure out, and is why I've got my notebook back, this is a different notebook, but this had all my varieties of tomatoes in terms of the type. So I've got my beef steak, salad, and cherry, and the cooking one. And so I want my beef steaks really at the back, because my theory is, and I may be completely wrong here, that the bigger the tomato, probably the bigger the plant. Probably doesn't follow suit. But anyway, that's the principle I'm working on. So I'm going to have the beef steaks at the back, regular sort of salad tomatoes in the middle, and then the cherries at the front as far as that goes. I think I might not put the Barry's Crazy Cherry in here because that is a bush. Am I right in this? That's a bush tomato rather than an indeterminate. So that one might have to go outside anyway. Okay, so I'm going to arrange the tomatoes to try and get one of each in here in the right lane, if you like. Let's have a go. Right, I think that's what I'm going for. So quite a few of the varieties, there are 2 each in this space. Some have only got 1. Some I only had 1 of. So the garnet, only 1 of those germinated. So I've only got 1 of those. But yeah, and I've got a few now spares that I can plant outside, and it'll be interesting to test actually whether some are more blight resistant than others. But I'm happy with that. So now I need to get them in. And as I said, I am going to bury them right up to the first true leaves, and I'm going to give them a helping hand with some of this rootmore mycorrhizal fungi stuff. I used it last year. didn't do any harm. Hopefully it does some good. So I'm going to put that in the hole as well. Obviously there's already seaweed feed in here. There's homemade compost. There's this soil enhancer on top as a mulch as well. So, I mean, I hope there's lots of goodness already in here. So I'm not going to put too much in the planting hole itself. We've had all this rain, so it does mean I can water them in with rainwater as well. So that's pretty good. But yeah, I'm just going to sweep through, get them in, and worry about staking later. And then these ones that aren't going into this bed, I'm just going to pot up into a larger pot until they're ready to go out into the big wide world. Okay, let's do it. Okay, there we go. 23 tomatoes in, all watered in, labelled, and the labels are correct so far, I believe. And I'm just filling up the pipes. So all of these will get a good water. And then I won't water this for at least a week or two to encourage the roots to go down and find water. But wow, I'm really happy that those are in. And like I'm saying, this spacing is by no means ideal, but it's worked for me in the past. I'm hoping it will work for me again this year. Got to think about my my supporting, but otherwise, yeah, I'm so pleased that they are in the ground. Right, so I better get these ones potted up now. And if you're interested in the varieties that I'm growing this year, check out this video, and I shall see you next week.